I bought like these cheap $10 gloves, not even $5 gloves at Warden Station on my way to the game because I don't actually have gloves, and I'm like, I should probably get gloves.
And a patty and a bun, the same shop.
You could have, but I chose not to.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to the On Blast podcast. Where, as always, we just like to give you our thoughts.
It's just my thoughts, man.
Right or wrong, just what we're feeling at the time.
I'm Sheldon. Got my man AB.
What's good?
Mr. Brendan Dunlop.
How are you?
Mr. Andrew Webster on the far side.
What's going on, everybody?
I just noticed, and this wasn't even on purpose, but this seems kind of like a little segregation thing we got going.
It was on purpose.
Like if I thought about it, we would have like mixed this up.
I thought we were going for like a color shade, like lightest to progressively darker and darker, progressively lighter.
I just saw the throne and I took the center seat. And I
That's
thought,
it.
Okay,
Hey.
I get it.
Listen, guy on TV's always got to go for
I don't
the
have to
nice
wear a
seat,
tie
you
today,
know?
but yes, I'll take the throne and a bottle of water, please.
There we
the
go.
fizzy kind.
So I find it funny you mentioned thrones because we had a Toronto team that was attempting to take the throne on Saturday.
Right?
I love that. That's the big lead.
First off, I got to ask you guys a question. I'm not about moral victories. Me and Kanye, not about. Sorry,
Right.
I shouldn't even be referencing Kanye.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the bad list right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
Santa's naughty list.
but-
We'll get there in block 3.
But like, is it the moral victory in just getting there for TFC?
Getting there was a title in itself. And you can tell simply from the reaction. I didn't know if that they were going to touch the Eastern Conference trophy, and they reacted like that was the trophy. But I understood that because this is a group that hasn't won. And this is a team that's suffered, and this is a team that comes with such a bad stereotype. And Michael Bradley and Sebastian Giovinco always have to justify why they're here constantly to their circles. In their circles, they get laughed at. So finally, they got to the big dance, and they were the favorites. And I don't agree with you that Seattle thought they were going to win this game. By the way, they played, which was just sit back, counter, and play for penalties, which they did brilliantly, and in the end worked out for them.
So, but that means that they went in with the right gameplay, right?
Well, I think they understood the scenario, which was Toronto's got to take it to us, and Toronto struggled to do so. The conditions didn't help. They battered the hell out of Giovinco. They weren't getting booked for it, so it continued.
The ref definitely made.
I want to know why you're so cheesed.
I'm cheesed, B. I'm cheesed because the game that I saw was that Toronto was actually executing their plays quite well. The ball just wasn't finding the net.
Yeah.
You know, we were getting the right space. We were getting the right opportunities. Even within the first 2 minutes, Josie had a nice shot. The ball, it was like inches. It missed the net in the first half. There was a few other good chances we had in the second half. And look, the ball just didn't hit the back of the net. And Seattle did not even register a shot on goal. So
That's the tough part because you have a lot of the bandwagon Toronto fans just tuning in, and they're like, "Wait a second, you can lose."
Yeah.
The other team doesn't have a shot on goal for the entire game.
It was
Wait a
fun.
second.
It was fun reading on Twitter all the people who hopped on the TFC bandwagon, figure out what overtime in soccer was all about.
Yep.
And just it mystified so many people.
Yeah.
They were like, what do you mean they're going to play 2 20-minute extra and the last goal doesn't win and we got to do this and that?
It's not golden goal, as they call sudden death in soccer.
I have a question as a non-soccer guy because I was thinking Giovinco's by far your best player.
Yep. Best player in the league.
Best player in the league. So he's getting subbed off because he has cramps, which we'll get to. There's a lot more Giovinco talk coming with
Is Ricky Foley going to show up in the air?
Right, I don't know. Matt Black is our boy.
Yeah, Matt Black. I know Matt.
I have a bone to pick with homie, man.
We did go to school with Matt Black.
Northampton Town, or was that your other boy's school? What's the school you guys all the football players?
Northern.
And me and Matt Black went to elementary school together. That hurt me extra, but we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that. But
I'm a holla at you, boy.
Here's my question. So and I think I sent you this text that night too. So Giovinco's subbing off.
Mm-hmm.
You are less than a half hour away from PKs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not sub in someone who's going to be in your first 6 kickers?
Because
PKs. That's what I didn't understand. As a non-soccer guy, I'm letting you know about my ignorance.
Yeah.
So seeing Giovinco come and seeing how battered he'd been throughout the game and how little to no impact, it was the least impact that I've ever seen him in any match, to be honest. Maybe not. Well, maybe Montreal the year before when they got battered 3-0. Maybe that was pretty poor. But this was definitely close to that. And for a cup final, you can't have that with your best player. So Vanny looked at it and thought, He's not delivering at his level. He's also not 100%. He wasn't making the runs. He wasn't taking the risks.
Yeah.
Vanny felt, I can play this out with 10 men because it's like I'm playing a man down because he's invisible out there. Or I can put someone on who has a chance to score goals, who's done it before, is going to be fresh legs and alive, which is Toussaint Ricketts, who is not the person comfortable enough to take penalties. So that was Vanny's gamble.
And like, mind you,
let's not get to penalties.
Toussaint Ricketts did like get some chances once he came on.
Mhm.
That's right.
Josie almost had the header. So in fairness, it's not
Yeah.
like it was a terrible sub. Like I
Right.
get it, but I was just curious about that. Like how because dude that hit the bar, that's a defender, right?
Yeah,
Like that was your next.
Justin Morrow.
That's your next.
He was
guy
the sixth
up.
guy.
Like, and again, I'm the ignorant guy on Twitter that's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I don't get this.
There
Put
are
the goal
some-
scorer in there to score the goal.
Right, which and I forgot Toussaint Ricketts doesn't shoot penalties, and this is just a mental thing. Yes, he's a striker, but there are
he
some
can't finish
guys in all
penalties.
positions. We see this at the World Cups and at European Championships that time comes and just goes nope. And as much as you want to rip and get on a guy, you have to respect that that's a decision.
Yeah.
He recognizes I am not giving the team the best chance now because my head isn't right. Leave me out of it.
Yeah, and honestly, like when Vanny brought in Ricketts, it wasn't for PKs, right? It was
It's
for
to
more
avoid
goal
them. It was
to
chances,
win.
it
It's to
more
avoid
put the
PKs.
game away.
I like that. I like that.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think that's how you play the game. Where Seattle may have thought otherwise, they wanted to park it, but cheese, fam, it's cheese. That was our game. It was we did everything we were supposed to do,
Except
and,
win.
the better team didn't win that game. So
You don't think? I don't know. It felt like Seattle,
I
like
see you wearing green.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
I just like Washington's marijuana laws.
Yeah.
What can I tell you? But what I'm saying is that, like you talked about it, Seattle had a plan. It was to back up the bus, and it was to hold them without a goal and hope for PKs, and that's what they did. They got to PKs and they executed there. It doesn't seem to me like, I mean, I know that they didn't have a shot on net, but that's not necessarily what soccer is all about, right? Like it's all about implementing your strategy and executing it. And they did that on the defensive end, and they got to PKs and they handled business there.
Do you always say PKs?
Penalties?
Yeah.
Why?
PKs is it's a very American term.
Yeah, probably.
I just don't know what I'm talking about.
PK
I openly admit I don't know what I'm talking about.
PK, but you do more so than you let on. You definitely know more so.
PKs, penalties? Wait, you're gonna pull my card on that one?
I'll just call it the
No,
Subans.
I just didn't think you did call it that.
The
going with
Subans,
the
I like
Subans
that.
after
The PK and the
extra times.
Subans.
I see what you did there. I see what you did.
Yeah,
PK is a former F1 world champion and Mr. Shakira.
Oh,
Gerard
Gerard
Piqué?
Piqué. But that's more Piqué than PK.
Tomato over
Yeah,
here on
man.
the On Blast
Well,
podcast.
how much do you think the weather played a role? You know, I heard some people say that like, oh, the headers were all weird and the ball seemed kind of dead. And I know that I believe that the field is somewhat heated. Am I not?
I don't know.
It is heated, yeah.
It is heated, right? So let's say the playing temperature, the surface of the field is like what, like 5 degrees maybe, considering it was like -10. Do you feel like those conditions really played a role?
Well, I think that the undersoil heating stops the ground from freezing, so
Right.
that you still have the effects of playing in warmer weather,
Yeah,
but that's only under your feet.
Yeah.
right.
It doesn't I don't think make any warmer for the players, but when it comes to the case of Giovinco, just because the ground is artificially warm doesn't mean it reacts the same way it does when it is warm.
Right.
So for a guy like him, whose biggest attribute is his first step, which is he can break and get space, because he's not the fastest player in the league, but he can get away. He can start on a dime. But when the ground is not 100%, and when he's not 100%,
His
he
cuts,
doesn't have that.
agility, all that side.
Exactly. So
that's,
he lost
that's really
that.
what it was, because like we mentioned the Argos jumping on
Yeah,
him,
I was
and
gonna
I think
say.
it was a very like easy take to just jump on him for what he was saying. You know, that like his last, what was it, 4 home games, he said he didn't really play well and he cramped up a lot. Like, is that really what it is? Just how it affects his agility? Like, is it a legitimate beef? That's what I'm saying.
And has
Or
that
is he kind of like being a whiner?
And you know what that move was to me? That was him, not being aware that he was going to get jumped on by the North American fan who thinks, are you for real, man? You
Yeah.
cramping because of the grass? But also, in being in North America, for a minute, he looks and thinks, oh, all these superstars, all the higher paid guys, they speak out when they don't like things. So he sees LeBron, and he goes,
cramps as well?
I ain't going to stick around for the rest of my contract, and we're going to share this field with this team that no one even cares to come buy tickets for the championship game.
Right.
Forget that. So that was his message to the team in the league. Look, I know my worth, and I don't need to share it.
And that's my beef,
CFL
man.
team.
That's my beef. Like before the season, all due respect to our friends that play in the CFL, Matt Black, I love you, but I got beef, man. Like you guys were homeless. Back when Lewicki was getting all this done. I feel it was a political move to say, okay, you want a bigger stadium for TFC? You got to get your bastard older brother to live with you. Right? He's got to move out the house. He's got no place to go. If you're going to get a bigger house, you got to get this guy to move in with you, and those are the Argos. So it was almost a political move to have them come in. They came in. Those guys were homeless, and now they're getting mad at basically the host that allowed them to come into our house. All right?
And I will say that
talk shit about the league MVP.
I will say, too,
Come
that is
on,
one of
man.
my beefs, just because when we really rewind this whole story about BMO Field, this was government money was used to build BMO Field,
right?
And the intention was that it was supposed to be Canada's national soccer facility.
Correct.
Which my beef then continued last summer when the Women's World Cup and the Pan Am Games were both in Canada,
and
neither hosted an event at BMO Field. So my whole beef with this, and now all of a sudden they're hosting hockey games and Grey Cups and all this crap with taxpayer money that's supposed to be for a soccer facility.
Yep,
that is my beef originally.
Jeez,
and I'm not even a soccer guy. So I'm kind of with Jovinko here.
Yeah, man.
Dunlop reminded me that I was angry about the whole TFC stand situation. Did you see obviously you saw the made-up stands that they made? One of the guys we work with told me he was at the semifinal game, the game against Montreal, and he was like, oh, people were scoring, and it was shaking, and I didn't feel safe. And I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, you're exaggerating, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I went to the game, and we went to our actual seats for maybe 10 minutes. And it was one of those things where, when you're waiting for the other person to be like, let's go. You don't want to be the first one to be like, yo, man, I don't feel safe. That's exactly what it was.
Oh, my God.
Really? I'm tough, but
So first off,
I want to get out of here.
First off, the stands are held up by maybe it's double the thickness of these mic stands in terms of thickness. That the poles at how the stands are built.
Right.
First problem. I'm looking at this shit that's not sturdy.
That's not
and
good.
it looked like Jenga or something. If one of these things snap, does everything else just come down?
Oh, shit.
It did not look safe, first off. You can feel every step as you're climbing up and going up. You can feel every step. Also not safe. 2, maybe 3. I lost track.
Fired up.
Fired up. No. You don't understand. I did not feel safe.
Yeah, get fired up about safety. We should be more fired up about safety.
I want to put the best.
You get up there, and there's a sign that says, as you're walking up, there's a sign that says, this is not a supporter section. And my only assumption for why they would have that is because supporter section, those dudes are hyped. They're jumping up and down, chanting the whole game. So I feel like they put up those signs to let you know, don't jump up and down in this shit.
Right.
Hold on. It's a soccer game. What happens if they scored a game? I was happy that they didn't score while I was there because that shit might have came down.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I did not feel safe. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I keep telling people, I saw duct tape wrapped around one thing. I wish I took a picture.
Should have taken a picture. I was
Because I
just
told
going to say,
people that. And I'm not saying it was holding up a corner. I'm not saying that. A corner of it, a joint of it was held by duct tape. I'm saying just let's say wrapped right here. Just duct
enough duct tape for you to notice.
Why is there? Yeah,
there should have been no tape there.
Why is duct tape
Holy
a factor?
Yeah, no.
Right?
That's crazy, man.
That shit did not seem safe.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
To the point where I almost thought it was a blessing that they did not score because that shit might have came down. I know that sounds fucked up, but it's just the way that I think about shit. Like last year when we had the NBA All-Star game, and it was the coldest day of the year that whole weekend.
Yeah.
I was kind of happy for that too because it was Toronto and some dumb shit would have happened because all these kids would have just been on the streets for no reason.
Yeah. Fair enough.
That's how I think about things. I messed up. I know.
Right.
Okay.
But those stands, back to the point, those stands were not safe. I stayed there for 10 minutes, didn't even get to my actual seat, stayed in the aisle halfway up and was like, yeah, we're going back down to watch the game behind the net.
Let me ask you a question. Was it rocking at all, or was it just very loud and
Not even loud. I'm just saying you could feel it shake as you're walking.
Yeah, there was give in
your
it.
Steps. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ain't cool.
That's going to be tough for that hockey game, man.
So
should be
People are gonna
colder.
sit there.
I've sat in similar kind of like temporary stands. You know, we go to F1 every year,
Yeah.
and most of those seats
It's all
are
temporary, yeah.
scaffolding style.
Right.
That's what it is.
And it's
Scaffolding.
pretty,
Indy.
it's pretty
I couldn't think of the
like
word.
rudimentary. Like, you know, you can. There's a little bit of give and whatever. But it's funny you mentioned the kind of bouncing around because even for the conference final games and the games before that in the playoffs, we sat in a similar section, 208, 209, right? Like the new section, whatever.
But it's actual seats.
It's concrete. But during the final, it was the first time I looked at Carlos. I'm like, do you feel like the ground move? Like, do you feel like things moving up and down? And we didn't even feel that in the conference final game.
But for the final.
But the final, like things were, and we were on concrete. I'm like, this is different. I just think it was just hype.
Maybe.
Could have been
Listen.
my nerves.
Maybe. Definitely.
But, you know, also on the safety matter, that Montreal-Toronto game that we had here, the one where we closed out that series, great game, rain and all that.
Yeah.
Whenever we scored, because of, like, I guess the angle of those seats, every time someone scored, people were just falling down in waves. Like, I lost Carlos to, like, a few rows down in front of me. Some next guy's falling down. Like, this is like, you look around, you see people cascading down.
Yeah.
So, if not one thing or another.
Jesus.
But that just seems like fun, and you know that the
And, like,
ground's
no
not
one got
coming out
hurt.
of
Like,
the
people
way.
were catching each other. It was
Yeah.
great.
Right.
But, you know, hey, man, you got to be ready. Got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
I
You know what you're
guess
getting
so.
into.
It was wild.
I didn't know what I was getting into. That's the thing.